Hey everyone, this is Dr. Medicine RX, and in today's video we'll be discussing about neurosyphilis. So here the neural system is affected and this infection can occur at any stage of syphilis, and this is as a result of hematogenous invasion of the Treponema pallidum. And the course of the disease after this invasion can be that it can either undergo spontaneous resolution, or it can present as acute symptomatic meningitis, or it may remain asymptomatic and manifest 5 to 35 years later. Coming to the classification, neurosyphilis is of four main types: asymptomatic, meningeal, parenchymatous and gummatous types. Asymptomatic can again be early and late types. Meningeal can be acute syphilitic meningitis and meningovascular types, where meningovascular can be again cerebral and spinal meningovascular. Then parenchymatous type, where parenchyma is affected, can again be of four types. The first is general paralysis of insane, Tabes dorsalis, tyboparesis and optic atrophy, and gummatous type can be again cerebral and spinal gummatous types. Coming to asymptomatic variant, here we do not see any clinical signs and symptoms of the disease. However, we can see that there are some CSF abnormalities present, and these CSF abnormalities, they peak at 12 to 18 months after infection, and these CSF abnormalities are an indicator of further development of neurosyphilis. So if these abnormalities are present for more than 5 years, then there is an increased chance of neurosyphilis. But if they are absent for more than 2 years, then there is no chance for further development of neurosyphilis. These CSF abnormalities are seen in the form of increased levels of WBCs, especially lymphocytes, and they can be 10 to 100 cells per millimeter cube. The protein levels are about 50 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. The non-treponemal tests are positive and serology is also positive in this stage. Coming to the meningeal type, it is again of two types: acute syphilitic meningitis and meningovascular syphilis. Acute syphilitic meningitis, it occurs when the secondary rash is still present, that is during secondary syphilis. That means it occurs within 1 year of infection. Here the clinic sign is positive, and headache, fever, photophobia, nausea, vomiting and confusion can also occur. If there is any acute syphilitic hydrocephalus, then it can lead to papillary edema. If there is bacillar meningitis, then 3rd, 6th, 7th and 8th cranial nerves are involved and can present with respective symptoms. If there is subependymal gliosis, then Argyll-Robertson pupil can occur where the accommodation reflex is preserved whereas the light reflex is absent. If the cortex and vertex meninges are affected, then it can cause stroke-like symptoms. And if the spinal cord meninges are affected, then pyramidal and other motor tracts are involved and can present with further symptoms. CSF abnormalities are seen in the form of increased intracranial pressure. There is increased WBC count to about 10 to 200 cells per millimeter cube. Protein levels are increased and they can be up to 200 milligrams per deciliter. There is increased globulin levels, decreased glucose levels, VDRL is positive and serology is also positive. On histopathological examination, we can see inflammatory changes of the meninges and ependyma, and the predominant cells are going to be lymphocytes and plasma cells. Coming to meningovascular syphilis, it is again of two types: cerebro-meningovascular and spinal meningovascular. In cerebromeningovascular, the middle cerebral artery is most commonly involved, and there can also be end arteritis of medium and large arteries leading to an entity called as Hubner arteritis, and small arteries and arterioles can also be involved leading to Nissel's arteritis. The clinical features in this entity are going to be focal neurological syndromes. They are the hallmark feature, and they depend on the vessel that is involved. But commonly we can see stroke, hemiparesis, hemiplegia and aphasia and seizures. Atypical manifestations can be present, and even here the blood and CSF tests are going to be positive. CT angiography shows bleeding and diffuse irregularity. CT and MRI also show changes that is suggestive of ischemia, and on histopathological examination we can see that the vasa vasorum of arteries, they show inflammatory changes. Next, coming to spinal meningovascular, it occurs as a result of extension of the meningeal inflammation, and it can again be of two forms: syphilitic meningomyelitis and spinal vascular syphilis. So in syphilitic meningomyelitis, it is most common, and it is seen after 20 to 25 years of infection. and there is going to be gradual onset of paresthesia of legs. They can also be paraparesis and asymmetric paraplegia, and we can see hyperreflexia, ankle clonus, and absent reflexes. Here dorsal column involvement happens, and this leads to loss of position and vibration sense. Then in spinal vascular syphilis, we see sudden onset paraplegia. There is also sensory loss and urinary retention, and sometimes it may simulate Brown-Sequard syndrome. In this stage as well, the blood and CSF tests are going to be positive, and the chronic spinal meningitis shows parenchymatous degeneration of the cord, and it is associated with poor prognosis. Next is the parenchymatous type of neurosyphilis. In this, general paralysis of insane is an important entity. It is also known as paralytic neurosyphilis or dementia paralytica, and it is seen in about 10% of the cases, and it occurs as a result of direct cerebral invasion by Treponema pallidum. So it usually begins as degenerative changes followed by gross atrophy of frontal and temporal lobes, as a result of which the cerebrocortical function is affected. A small mnemonic to remember what all happens in paresis: there are going to be personality changes, there is going to be affect changes, there is going to be hyperreflexia, and in eye we can see Argyll-Robertson pupil. As for AS, there is altered sensorium in the form of hallucinations and delusions, and seizures, adult onset seizures without any mental alterations, is an important entity in this. So the early complaints are going to be psychiatric complaints. They can be in the form of memory loss, delusions, especially of grandeur, megalomania, and deterioration of personal habits and hygiene is an important symptom in this. There is going to be progressive dementia. There is going to be a disintegration of symbolic thoughts and disinhibition and emotional liability. And the adults, they manifest with adult onset seizures without any mental aberrations. The most common neurological signs that are seen in this entity are Argyll-Robertson pupil and flattening of facial lines, tremors, and impaired writing and speech. These tremors, they can be of lips, tongue, facial muscles, and fingers. And in case of more extensive involvement, there is going to be dementia, cranial palsies, apathy, and sphincter incontinence. Along with this, some other changes that can occur include hypotonia and long tract signs and incoordination and clumsiness. In this stage as well, the blood and CSF tests are going to be positive. On CT scan, there is going to be reduced attenuation in cerebral white matter of frontal and parietal lobe and enlarged cortical sulci and ventricular dilatation. Next is Stapes dorsalis. It is seen in cases where there are certain risk factors present, such as men having sex with men, HIV infection, males over the age of 45 years, drug abuse or lack of syphilitic therapy, and it occurs 5 to 50 years after infection. The basic pathogenesis here is that it is a type of inflammatory response against the Treponema pallidum with perivascular infiltrates of lymphocytes, histiocytes, and plasma cells. And because of this inflammation, there is going to be demyelination of sensory nerve fibers in the dorsal root and posterior columns of spinal cord. And the clinical features in this are represented in the form of a triad of symptoms and a triad of signs. So the triad of symptoms, something that the patient presents with, these include shooting or lightning pains. These are brief, sudden and stabbing type of pains that spread rapidly in the back, on the limbs, or even on the face. And there is going to be sensory ataxia, where there is loss of body balance and coordination with difficulty in walking. It basically happens due to loss of proprioception, pain and position sensation. Then there are also going to be bladder disturbances in the form of urinary retention and overflow incontinence. Less commonly, we can also see paresthesias and dysesthesias. Then the triad of signs are pupillary abnormalities. Basically, Argyll-Robertson pupil is seen where there are bilateral myotic pupils which do not respond to right reflex with preserved accommodation reflex. There is going to be areflexia, where the deep tendon reflexes, they are reduced or absent. And there is going to be positive Romberg sign, that is the patient sways or falls when we ask them to walk in a straight line with their eyes closed. And this positive Romberg sign is due to decreased or absent proprioception due to severe dorsal column involvement. Then we also see visceral crisis in Stapes dorsalis. So gastric crisis is seen in the form of epigastric pain, nausea and vomiting. Intestinal crisis is seen in the form of abdominal pain and diarrhea. Rectal crisis presents as tenesmus, and in laryngeal crisis there is going to be hoarseness, stridor and laryngeal pain. The characteristic feature in this is that in Tabes dorsalis is that there is going to be sensory ataxia with broad-based stamping gait. Then we also see Charcot joints where there is painless enlargement of knee joints as a result of repeated trauma. Even in this stage, the blood and CSF tests are going to be positive. The VDRL, RPR tests when it comes to blood, and CSF tests in the form of positive VDRL, CSF pleocytosis and increased protein concentration are all going to be positive. Treponemal tests are also going to be reactive. And there is also increased levels of CXCL3, CSF, IL-17, IL-10 and interferon gamma. Then optic atrophy, it can either be an isolated manifestation of neurosyphilis or it may accompany Tabes dorsalis, and it happens due to damage to the optic nerves from chronic inflammatory changes, and it manifests as progressive visual loss. Then gamma of brain and spinal cord. So this is very rare. This entity is very rare. In the brain, it may involve meninges, and it can occur as a result of extension from the skull bones, and they present as rubbery nodes which can be one or more than one in number, and these produce space occupying signs and symptoms similar to any tumor of the brain. They also produce space occupying signs and symptoms. Then gamma of the spinal cord, it presents as a granuloma with features of spinal cord compression, and it can manifest as root pain or spastic paraplegia, urinary and fecal incontinence and sensory loss below the lesion. Thank you. Subscribe for more.